us this afternoon for an afternoon of conversation. On the screen today, you can see 6 of the artists who I'll be speaking to, artists and educators that I'll speaking to this afternoon. But before we begin and before we meet them, I'd like to ask the producer CK just to explain a little bit about what this afternoon will be like and about some of the people who've been working backstage to make this event possible.
Okay, thank you, Jo. Hello everyone. My name is CK. I'm from InstantCafeTheatre. Thank you everyone for spending the afternoon with us, especially our friends in Facebook Live and also YouTube. Thank you to the people who actually help us behind the scenes. We have Farah Rani and also Ziying who help us with the Zoom operation and also streaming. At the same time, also thank you to the translator, which is Mia Sabrina, Ijan, and Farzana. We would also like to thank interpreters, Adriana, Robin, and Amin. So this conversation is run by 3 behind the scenes personnel, 6 panelists, and Jo as moderator, 3 translators, 3 interpreters. So there are a total of 16 people from different places now at their home or office trying to run this conversation. So it's going to be challenging, but we welcome you on board for a ride with us. So thank you very much. Back to you, Jo.
Thanks, CK. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to jump straight into it because we have 2 hours ahead of us and lots to talk about. So I want just to begin by introducing the 6 people who are with us this afternoon. To begin with, I want to introduce Ghafir Akbar. Ghafir, you can wave to everybody so they know who you are. Ghafir is an actor, a teacher, and a director. I want to explain a little bit about the people who I've gathered today to explain why these people in particular are joining us for this inaugural What's Next. So Ghafir and I have worked together for many years as actors. And earlier this year, I started working with him on a project he created called How to Be Alone. We've been wanting to work together for a very long time. And strangely, perhaps this pandemic forced our hand, right, Ghafir? I'll let him tell you about this later. Next, I want to introduce 2 people, Saleh and Masooma Sepas, who founded Paris 2 Theatre, which is an Afghan theatre company here in KL. So just wave to everybody, Masooma and Saleh. I've been working with them now for the last 2 years, and we have 2 projects in the pipeline. One of them, And Then Came Spring, has been in the pipeline for more than 2 years now. But because of the pandemic, we haven't managed to put it out there in public. Saleh is a director and Masooma is an actress, but she's also been a stage manager and a manager for Paris 2 as well as doing many other things for the company. Next up is Ridhwan Saidi. Say hello, Ridhwan. He's a novelist, a playwright, and a filmmaker. My colleague and producer CK, who you just met, has worked closely with Ridhwan on a number of theatre projects. And I'm hoping one day, full disclosure, to be able to direct one of his plays. I have my eyes on a play he wrote called Maltopia, which I really love very much. Maybe he'll talk about it later, I don't know. Next up is Usen Leong, who is an educator. And I thought it'll be really good to hear from Usen today about the impact the pandemic has had on education and how she might have changed her outlook as a result. I was with her last year on a debate when we had to say what our manifesto would be if we were elected Minister of Arts and Culture. And I have to say that I felt that Usen's manifesto is one that should be adopted if ever we get a chance to actually vote for our government instead of having one come in the way it actually did. So let's hope Usen gets to be the next Minister of Culture. I think we'll move ahead if she does. And finally, say hello to Ridzwan Othman. I've known Ridzwan longer than anyone else here, even though we haven't seen each other that much over the last umpteen years. We have kept in touch creatively. So Ridzwan was in the inaugural edition of First Works, which was a new Malaysian play platform. I directed his first full-length play, Flies and Foreigners, and he's now working on his second play. And again, strangely enough, maybe it was this pandemic which has allowed us to work together again in some way, because we're forced to go back in a way to our creative allies from the past and re-examine those relationships. So I don't want to say too much more. We're going to spend the next 15 minutes or so getting to know each other. You know, it's been a difficult year for many of us, those of you in the audience, some of us here, and we've all been in different boats in the same storm. So today is a bit about finding out, what is your boat? What was your boat like? What was the storm like for you? How did you manage? What did you learn creatively? And who are you? So today we're going to be looking at who are you? So let's start off with Ghafir Akbar. And I'm basically going to ask each of the panelists to speak for 2 minutes on who am I, right? But just to keep it theatrical and fun, they have to speak for 2 minutes, but they have to use the words awkward, acrobat, and New York in their 2 minutes of presentation.
I have to use it.
You have to use it.
Okay.
All within 2 minutes. And Farah Rani will ring a little bell at the end of 2 minutes, and you have to have got these 3 words in before that time is up.
Go.
And you can start.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum. My name is Ghafir Akbar. I am, as Joe mentioned, I'm an actor, I'm a director, and also a part-time teacher, educator. So I've been working as an actor for about, over 20 years. I got my first sort of professional debut in 1998 with the Actors Studio Theatre in Dataran Merdeka in a production called Box of Delights. It was a production about fairy tales that was adapted to the region. And then we performed it in front of an audience with a live gamelan accompaniment. And it was directed by a director named Pauline Furlong. So that was sort of like my first introduction into the world of theatre professionally. But at that point, I was also trying to figure out what I wanted to do as an actor. So I decided to pursue, to go study in the US. And fortunately, a lot of things were going my way. And I managed to travel to the US to do my bachelor's degree, and then followed that with my master's degree. And then I lived in New York for almost 2 years, trying to make it as an actor. And of course, the reality of living in New York and reality of being an actor in that city was a bit of an acrobatic act. Maybe. And then I came back to Malaysia in the year 2014. So I was in the US for about 8 years. And since then, I've been sort of like working both in KL and fortunately in the last about 5-6 years in Singapore, and sort of like being able to dabble both cities. And I've worked mostly as an actor for the past 5 years, and occasionally I find the opportunity to direct. And I teach part-time at Aswara, and previously I also taught at HELP and also at University Malaya. I chose this photo specifically because I look at myself, this is my first headshot as a child. I don't know how old I was, probably like 2 or 3. Consider myself like a very awkward kid. I liked a lot of things, but I think it wasn't until I was like late in my teens that I found sort of my true self as an artist.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much for that, Ghafir, for getting all those 3 words in there. Farah, I think you need to make your bell a bit louder, and also maybe every time somebody uses the word, just ring the bell. Okay, thanks for that. CK, let's go on to the next person who will explain who am I. Usen, and here are the 3 words you have to use in describing who you are: Parliament, Taiwan, and future.
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for having me. And thank you, Ijan, for willing be my interpreter. So right now I will start using Mandarin. Yeah, okay. 好，大家下午好。我是梁友轩。我是在台湾。我中学毕业以后，我就到台湾留学了差不多8到9年，然后后来回到就是马来西亚，再就是回来马来西亚继续发展。我差不多就是到今年8月，可能我已经在新纪元大学学院就是戏剧影像系教书教了快10年，然后在国会停止的，就是现在在国会停滞的这一段时间里面，我也很深刻的在思考，我接下来的下一个10年，我的未来的下一个10年会在哪里？谢谢。
Okay, Ijan, could you translate?
Hello everyone, I'm Usen Leong. I graduated in Taiwan after spending almost 9 years in Taiwan. I returned to Malaysia, and I have been an educator in the New Era University for almost 10 years by now. So during this time when the parliament stopped operating, I'm deeply thinking where would be my future 10 years.
Is that finished?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so next.
Hai, jadi saya Ridhwan Saidi. Jadi Mia akan tolong terjemah ke dalam bahasa Inggeris. Jadi saya apa utopia novel. Ya, jadi saya bermula sebagai novelis dulu. Macam mana perjalanan saya buat seni ni, mungkin saya boleh describe perlahan-lahan. Mula-mula saya belajar seni bina, kemudian saya grad untuk kerja kejap. Kemudian ada satu ketika saya dapat peluang untuk tulis novel. Saya jadi novelis dalam 7 tahun dulu. Kemudian 7 ke 10 tahun dulu, tak ingat. Kemudian dalam banyak-banyak novel tu ada 6 novel saya tulis. Salah satunya Mautopia. Jadi Mautopia tu dia distopia tentang manusia yang hidup dikawal oleh kerengga. Dan sejak 2-3 tahun atau 3 tahun 4 lepas baru saya start masuk ke dalam performance lah. Saya buat teater modular, teater normcore. Dan sementara saya tulis novel tu juga, saya juga terbitkan buku lah sebagai publisher dengan Moka Ink. Ya. Jadi kalau cakap pasal hospital, saya lahir kat Kelang. Itulah. Mungkin Mia boleh terjemah ya.
Okay. My name is Ridhwan. So I started dabbling with the art being a novelist, and initially I was actually studying architecture, and then after I graduate I worked for a little bit, and that came this opportunity for me to write a novel, and that was about 7 years, or was it 10 years back. I have written 6 novels so far. One of them is actually called Mautopia, which Jo is interested in. It's about human beings that are controlled by a group of ants. 3 to 4 years ago, I started doing theatre. And while I was doing theatre, I was also still continuing writing novels and just doing writing in general with my company, Moka Ink.
Okay, thank you. And next. So next is Saleh, and Saleh, these are 3 words which I'd like you to use when you speak to us about who you are: women, Bamiyan, and BBC.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much, Jo. This is Saleh. I'm a refugee from Afghanistan. I'm stay in Malaysia. So I studied in Kabul University, but now I'm a refugee in Malaysia. I'm the director and writer of InstantCafeTheatre. So we started the InstantCafeTheatre around 2017. So this theatre is for advocacy, for fighting with xenophobia, and also for empowering the refugee community. Actually, I want to introduce myself, like what is my character, what I'm thinking, according to the photo. But before that, yeah, I love Bamiyan, and I work 8 years with BBC. This is my definition photo. Most of the time, I feel this is me. And all in my past and my present time, the old ruined walls and the window which are burning in the fire. In fact, it's the symbol of my country. I think my time is finished. Yeah.
It's okay. You can finish your thought.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, my country has been burning more than 40 years. Not only the doors and wall are burning, also the people in my country burning. Many women have been burning in the war. The children are burning. The university, school, and hospital have also been burning. All I can remember that is war, killing, and burning. The man who moves something, I feel this is me. What moves, this is my responsibility. I must move even in the difficult situation and not stop. I feel tired, but I must move. My responsibility is heavy, but I must move. In Malaysia also, I have responsibility, but I must do my responsibility for myself, for my family, for my community and humans. The situation is not good for me here as well, but I have to move. In fact, moving is necessary, not just for me, for everyone, even in the bad situation.
Okay, thank you, Saleh. Okay, who's next? Okay. Ridzwan, you're next. So Ridzwan sent us his Excel sheet of his work. Can you enlarge that, CK? We're seeing everything else as well. And Ridzwan, the words that you have to use are the words dream, Kinabalu, and father.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Ridzwan. I am currently a freelance writer, editor, and proofreader. I studied economics for my first degree, but I decided a long time ago to work with words. I think that's something which I want to do. The current project that I'm working on is a play which I'm writing, which is set in Mount Kinabalu, or on Mount Kinabalu. And my father is doing pretty okay at the moment. And my dream is to explain a little bit about this Excel, which is I'm a very organized person. Yeah.
You want to explain about the Excel sheet?
Okay, yes. Okay, so I've got, being a very organized person, I have Excel sheets for quite a lot of different aspects of my life. This particular one is actually something which is more related to the creative side. So it's basically a journal. So I think a lot of people write down notes in their journals on paper, pen and paper. But I found, again, quite a long time ago that Excel is something which works much better for me. I like to sort things and all that. So here I've just noted down various things. Sometimes it's stuff which I've come across, words which I like, something I may have seen, an article which I've written, which I want to remember. Yeah.
Great, thank you. It's a wonderful idea. I might steal that if only I could be organized enough to be on Excel. Okay, and finally, Masooma.
Hi everyone.
To see
my name is Masooma.
Your image first.
Okay.
So this is not the image yet. This is the image that Masooma sent. So Masooma, you have to introduce yourself, but you must also use the word neighbors, safety, and mountain.
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Masooma. این عکسی که میبینین مستم دقیقاً من دوست دارم همیشه از کسی حمایت کنم، از همیشه حمایت کردن دوست دارم با همه مهربان باشیم، همه با هم دیگه مهربان باشیم، حتی با کوچکترین عضو این جهان که فکر کنم یک قورباغه که ریز است، با همسایه ها، با دوستای ما، با خانواده ما، همیشه در فکر میکنم که از طریق مهربانی با هم دیگه زندگی را پیش ببریم. پایه پیش بردن زندگی موفق مهربانی است. در این صورت بخش مهمی از مشکلات ما با مهربانی رفع میشن. این که مهربان باشیم. Mountain, how can I bring mountain in my word? Okay. به نظر من حتی اگر بلندترین قله کوه هم که بریم، بازم آدم احتیاج به مهربانی داره. یعنی باید مهربانی کنیم و کسی باشه که با ما مهربانی کنه.
Thank you. Saleh, can you translate?
Yeah. So Masooma told, my name is Masooma Sepas. She is an actress of Farsi theater. Actually, she always thinking of supporting someone. She told, I like to be kind to everyone, with family, with neighbors. When the smallest members of world as well. Kindness is the most beautiful human act, and all of us need the security and we must be kind if you are on the mountain. And yeah, that's why we should try to connect to each other with kindness. In fact, in case a large part of our problem we can solve with kindness. If you are in the mountain, if you are, we speak with neighbors, and we need security.
Okay, thank you, Saleh. Okay, so the second thing we asked all the participants to do was to send us an image which in some way told us something about what they did in their lives pre-COVID. So can we see these images of what was something that you did pre-COVID? And let's have a look at each of the individual images. So Ghafir, just tell us in 1 minute something about something you did pre-COVID, and you can relate to this image or it can be about something else, your life pre-COVID.
Sure. Just briefly, this is a production of Raj and the End of Tragedy, written by Jo Kukathas, staged in KL. I specifically chose this picture too because I think it was after this production that sort of more opportunities opened up for me in Singapore. And the idea of like collaboration between different directors and different writers kind of like opened up for me. So I felt like a lot of my life pre-COVID was the joy of performing, the joy of being on stage. That's sort of not absent now so much, but just sort of shifted to this.
Okay, thank you. This is an image from Usen. So Usen, can you tell us a bit about what this image is about and how it relates to your work?
OK，在2019年的时候，我答应了朋友的邀请，就到他的一个选区的其中一个新村去开了乐龄手机的摄影课程。那么大概在1个月的时间，我每个周末都往返居銮教导就是这些平均50到70岁的人，使用就是怎么样用手机拍照那他们过后就是必须要交期末作品，就是他们心目中的居銮然后在当时的一个居銮节展出。那这些学员就是50岁到70岁都有那这个计划其实对我来说非常有趣，因为虽然他们不是创作者但是透过他们的视角看到的居銮好像更为深情。那么在这个层面上一番收获不少的。
In 2019, I accepted a friend's invitation. I started working in a new village, which is also her constituency, on a senior citizens mobile phone photography project. So within a month, I traveled between KL and Kluang weekly, working with senior citizens community. So they learned techniques of photography with their smartphones and submitted photos for exhibition in Kluang Festival. They are within the age group of 50s to 70s. So this is a very interesting project for me, as they were non-professional artists, they were non-creators, but through their local perspectives, we can feel their very strong passion in Kluang. I myself benefited a lot in this process.
Okay, thank you, Sen. Next up, I think it's Ridzwan.
So ini projek Masa Manis tahun 2020 bulan Mac, dan saya ingat projek ni sebab dia betul-betul sebelum first lockdown tu, macam 2 hari macam tu lah. Jadi dia betul-betul ini masa rehearsal lah, dan Masa Manis ni play ni dia inspired, atau saya sebagai playwright dan director saya ambil inspirasi dari filem P. Ramlee berjudul Masa-Masa Manis. Jadi dalam filem tu ada permainan antara 2 bilik lah. Dia orang berjiran tapi tak kenal. Dia saling tak faham. Jadi saya cuba bawa situation tu ke dalam dunia dating masa kini dengan app apa semua tu. Tapi dia sesuatu macam lah. Ada permainan salah identity. Typical play lah macam dalam play. Ya. Jadi itu saya ingat play ni sebab dia betul-betul transition antara sebelum dan selepas betul-betul first lockdown COVID tu. Ya.
So this is the project the last project I did before the lockdown, and why I chosen this particular project is because it happened in March 2020, just a few days before the lockdown actually happened, the first one. And this is a photo that is taken during rehearsal. As a playwright director, I did this performance inspired by P. Ramlee's movie Masa Masa Manis, where inside the movie, if you know, it's about two strangers. They are in two different rooms where they don't know each other. And then there is a miscommunication about identity. So I took that concept and used it for an online dating setting. And it happened between two people who are seeing each other online, but they don't know that they are actually living in the room next to each other. So this is very special for me because it's exactly a few days before the lockdown happened.
Thank you. Ridzwan. Oh, sorry, this is Saleh. Sorry, my mistake, Saleh.
Yeah, actually, this photo shows the beta case of history performance in Black Box. It was the first performance that Parasto Theatre did in Malaysia since 2017. The name of this actor is Rohullah. In 2017, he was, I think, 17 or 18 years old. It was the first time he acted on stage. Before that, he didn't know about theater and acting. Before the show, he was very stressed to show and was not sure how she would play his role. But what he did in this sense was really amazing. As you can see the picture, he really cried. He cried. His cry was real, no act. Many audiences also cried with him. I think there was one thing in common between his role and his life. This was a picture of the commentary on the scenes. Those photos on the back are of the victims in war in Afghanistan who were killed in school, on the road, in the city. Why does this image is a creative work for me? Because Parasto started the activity with this show, and the audience got equity with Parasto Theatre.
Thank you, Saleh. I think now it's Ridzwan. Ridzwan, can you explain this image?
Yeah, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a toilet plunger, which in addition to being commentary on my life, is also something from my first play, which was directed by Jo Kukathas, and Ghafir was also in this. Thank you, Jo, and thank you, Ghafir. The play was called Flies and Foreigners, and one of the main characters in this play is a maid, a foreign maid in this house. So one of the things which I had to do as a writer, as a playwright in this play, was to I wanted to show the what a maid does, you know, the daily life of a maid. So what I did was there were 3 points, I think, in the play, 3 different scenes where I had things falling from the sky, from the ceiling. Yeah. So one of them was, I think in the first one was rice, uncooked rice, which sort of just dropped from the top. And so the maid had to take out a vacuum cleaner and vacuum everything up. The second item, I think, was this bunch of keys, various bunches of keys, which I think at that point in the play was about, I think, I can't quite remember, but I think it was something about her wanting to escape and something to that effect. Now, so then another thing was this, the third thing was these toilet plungers, which again, I wanted to connect with, you know, what many maids have to do as part of the job. So this was one of those things again, which were dropped from the top, you know, and so they landed on various parts of the stage. So this is the image.
you, Ridhwan. And finally, Masooma.
این دومین کار خلاقانه من در مالزی بود که در این نمایش به مشکلات زنان اشاره شده بود. این نمایش به نام فریادی در سکوت بود که من در اینجا دو نقش داشتم. یک نقش مثبت داشتم و یک نقش منفی. خودم بیشتر نقش منفی را دوست داشتم یک جورایی، چون نقش مثبت من فقط یک خیلی زیاد نبود، ولی در نقش منفی بار روی صحنه می آمدم. 22 بار اجرا شد این نمایش، 22 بار در مالزی اجرا شد و واقعا احساس میکنم بخشی از زندگی مسته. فریادی در سکوت. همین.
Thank you. Saleh, could you translate?
Yeah, sure. So Masooma told it was my second creative work in Malaysia, because in this play, women's problems were mentioned. It was called Screaming Silence Theater. I played two roles, a negative role and a positive role, but she loved her negative role in this show. I went on stage. She told I went on stage 22 times in Malaysia with this theater, and I feel that is show has become a part of my life, because she found many Malaysian friends by this show.
Thank you, Saleh. Okay, the next image we asked everyone to send us was an image of something new in their life. So let's just have a look at the images that the 6 speakers sent us about what was new in their life in the last 18 months. And I think you can see that maybe some of you will have some of these images in common with each other as well. So I just want to ask a few people to speak about the images that they chose. So Ghafir, can you tell us about this image? That's the image of you up there
Sure.
in the forest.
Yeah, I think I just found myself feeling very caged in, right? I mean, like everybody else, the feeling of like not being able to go anywhere. And even when the lockdown was loosened, the only place you could go was to go to the supermarket, like how we are now. And I think I found, I think on a friend's invitation to go hike at a local park, I found this sort of like new world being in the forest, the sense of being grounded and the sense of being purified. It was very refreshing. I mean, the idea of walking in the forest, the idea of and being alone in the forest, and feel very connected to nature and feel very connected to myself at the same time. I found it was a much welcomed discovery for me during the pandemic.
And Ridhwan, can you tell us a bit about this image that you chose for?
Oh yeah. Itu gambar skateboard. So basically 3 bulan lepas saya start main skateboard balik lah. Tapi dia datang balik sebab masa sekolah dulu, maknanya 20 years ago saya dah skate lah masa sekolah Form 4 selama 5 tahun. Saya skate, kemudian saya ada alami macam major operation, saya ada macam intestine, operate usus. Jadi kena berhenti lah. So selepas macam pandemik tahun lepas 2020 tu, macam setahun tu agak lama terperap, saya rasa saya kena bergerak lah, sama macam Ghafir, macam kita rasa nak keluar tu, rasa nak kena bergerak, berpeluh. Jadi saya, sebab skateboard ni ada je, selalunya saya guna sebagai dolly untuk shooting film. Tapi 3 bulan lepas saya start skate balik lah, roll, naik balik. Yeah.
Thank you. Mia, could you translate for us?
So this is a skateboard. It's something that I have been playing for a long time. 20 years ago, when I was Form 4, I have been playing skateboard for about 5 years. But then I had to stop because I had an intestine operation, and it's a very major operation that has led me to not be able to skate as much, and so I had to stop. And then 3 months ago, I think I had the same kind of feeling like what Ghafir had, where after a year of the pandemic, being locked down and staying at home, a bit of a cabin fever, so I feel like I had to go out and sweat and move my body, so I started playing. The skateboard has always been there since I started years ago, but it has always been used as a dolly for when I shoot my films. So now I have been using it a lot to skate.
Okay, thank you. And Masooma, can you tell me about the image you chose?
Yeah, sure. اینا آوا و آسا هستن، پیشکایی که ما درست 1 سال قبل اینا را هم به سرپرستی قبول کردیم. مادر و دختر هستن. آسا مادر است که اسمشون ما انتخاب کردیم. آسا به معنی آرامش، آسایش، و آوا به معنای صوت، بانگ، همچین چیزی. ما اینا دقیقا 1 سال قبل آوردیم و خیلی خوشحالیم که اینا عضوی از فامیل ما هستن. ما فکر می‌کردیم که فقط ما اینا رو دوست داریم و اینا وابسته هستیم، ولی نه. وقتی یکی از اعضای فامیل برای چند دقیقه بیرون میره از خانه، اینا خیلی نگران میشن و ما یعنی احساس میکنم که اینا خیلی به ما وابسته هستن و تنها نگرانی که دارم این است که وقتی یک روزی مالزی رو ترک کنیم چه اتفاقی برای آوا و آسا میفته. یعنی بیشتر نگرانی من است. Thank you.
Thanks. Saleh, could you translate for us?
Okay, sure. Yeah, Masooma told these are daughter and mothers named Asa and Ava. Asa is the name of the mother, meaning peace and relax. And Ava is meaning peace and relax, yeah.
So just to clarify, the image that Masooma is talking about is the image of the 2 cats. So these are new additions to your home.
Yeah. So Ava is the meaning of Ava is noise voice, like a musical sound. We brought them 1 year ago, and they are now members of our family. We are very happy that they are living with us. And I thought Masooma told I thought only we love them, but they also love us very much. When our family members go outside and leave house, they become very worried and sad. The dependence is unforgettable. I'm worried what will happen to us and Ava when we leave Malaysia one day.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, next we're going to have a look at some creative work that each of the speakers did last year. So we asked them to send images of 6 images of a project that they worked on last year. So let's start off with Ghafir again. And Ghafir, just take a couple of minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, to describe this project that you worked on last year, a creative project that you did during this pandemic.
Sure. Thank you, Jo. So this is a production, an online digital production called Who's There. It was performed in August 2020. It was part of the Ice Factory Festival with the New Ohio Theatre that's based in New York. So the usual festival, it's a new writing festival that usually takes place live. But of course, because of the pandemic, all the performances and all the curation and the commission specifically went online. So a friend of mine was commissioned to produce a play, to write a new play. And so of course, so what ended up happening was that she, with the flexibility of the pandemic, now that everybody's at home, everybody's forced to be at home, she was based in New York. So she was able to find performers, collaborators from all around the world without having to worry about flying them to New York. So we ended up creating a new ensemble called the Transit Ensemble. And the ensemble is based in Malaysia, Singapore, and also the US. So it's like an international collaboration. And the performance, or thematically, the performance was about the social justice issues happening around the world, specifically looking at the Black Lives Matter movement that was going on in the US, the blackface controversy, xenophobia, racism around the world. And I was looking at specifically the kinds of racism that existed in Malaysia alongside this interaction that was happening there. And everything was performed on Zoom and created on Zoom, which meant that it wasn't that we set up a stage. So this was literally my stage. We, of course, had, lighting and some backdrop here and there, costume changes, changing depending on the scene. But we utilized Zoom as our medium, meaning we used the chat room, we used the polling capabilities, the polling thing that they have on Zoom, the framing. So we manipulated Zoom to help us tell our story. And of course, this is Zoom in August 2020, so it's, or rather July 2020, so it's very different from Zoom now. But we knew that Zoom was going to be part of our ecosystem, our performance ecosystem. So we wanted to kind of like jump ahead and see how we can really manipulate Zoom as a medium. And this particular image was, I'm quite proud of it because it appeared in the New Yorker magazine, a little small blurb, but quite monumental for a small show that we created.
Great. Can I ask Ridhwan and Usen, did you do any work last year, creative work on Zoom, using Zoom as a medium?
My students, yeah.
Students did, yes. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot more explorations on Zoom coming up as well. Thanks for that, Ghafir. I think next is Usen. Let's look at your image.
Oh, okay. It looks like photo is already changed. Okay. 好，这个是我接到这个题目的时候，我一直在想，就是我到底2020年的时候做了什么东西的做了什么创意的东西这样子。那后来想了以后就终于发现我好像有剪了2个小小的影片。那这一个 actually 是一个 book video 的一个截图。那这个 book video 它其实是要去帮忙，就是我跟我朋友参与的一个口述历史的 project， 就是做一个推广。那这一本书是一本就是在记录这当年马来西亚1969年5一3事件，那时候就是的许多就是罹难者他们的家人的故事他们的家人怎么样去面对这个伤痛。那这是一个那时候长达好几年的口述历史计划。不过我在里面扮演的角色其实比较没有那么多所以就到后来去年5月13号的时候我们推出这本书，那我就帮忙剪了这个 book video。
Thank you.
Yes, so this is what comes into my mind when I try to figure out what creative works that I did in 2020. So this is a book video project I worked on based on oral history. It is stories of the families who went through the 1969 13th May riots, and we actually present the work last year in 13th May. And I helped in editing the videos of this book video project.
Okay, can you explain a bit more about that project, Usen?
OK， 好，这一个 OK， 这本书现在只有中文了那未来希望有机会就是可以就是做英文的这个翻译跟推出这样子那这本 actually 是我的有一个朋友，他叫 Paul， 就是 Paul 向宏，就是傅向宏，他当时召集了就是我以及其他的一些朋友们看看是不是可以找到就是当时5一3受难者他们的家属当时其实是怎么样经历，就在这一个非常大的一个痛苦的事件以后这些家人他们其实当时是怎样找到他们这些就是已经死去的家人又或者是怎样其实在这一个既有的历史伤痛上面重新面对，重新站起来 那其实因为我跟了几场，可能我的朋友就是他们的访问，去访问这些家属这样子，它是一个非常不容易的过程，因为其实这些家属某种程度他们在诉说这些过往的时候，其实都是在经历着再一次的伤痛。对，然后但是因为我们意识到说，在国家叙事底下，可能这一个东西是一直没有被讲出来，但我们都觉得，我们需要看到其实那时候发生了什么事，所以我们就是做了这本书。
This is a book currently only available in Mandarin. We are hoping in future to publish it in English if possible. It's by my friend Paul Hyang Hong. We interviewed families who went through the 1969 riots and how they actually at that point found the bodies of after the event and how they face history and going through this process of recovery. This is a very difficult project because when the family tells the stories, they have to actually go through once again of the pain and the suffer. But we found this is actually missing in the official history, so we thought it's very important to archive them.
Thank you, Usen, for sharing that. I think it's very interesting because I think you're right. Not many people are doing work about this particular period of our history. So it is a very painful period. And I think it's interesting to have people excavating those stories. Okay, I think up next is Saleh. Is that right?
No, Ridhwan.
Ridhwan, sorry, Ridhwan.
Aku cintakan, betapa aku cintakan kau, kau tak tahu. Aku sungguh kasihkan kau. Aku sentiasa ingatkan kau. Kau ada di dalam kepalaku setiap masa. Bila aku pandang ke kiri, aku nampak kau. Bila aku pandang ke kanan, aku nampak kau. Bila aku pejam
Ini
mata,
trailer
aku
kepada
rasa
filem Tiada Cinta Selama Muda atau dia punya bahasa Inggeris No Love for the Young. Jadi selepas bila suatu saya buat teater dalam tempoh 2-3 tahun, saya selalu dalam position writer director lah. Tak pernah, tapi saya sentiasa ada minat terhadap macam orang kata device play tu lah. Saya selalu tengok orang punya work, device play di mana dia punya starting point tu, kalau dalam kes filem ni, maknanya saya ambil teater punya device punya method, tapi saya bermula dengan tubuh collaborator lah. Maknanya untuk projek ni, menariknya saya rasa dia lebih selamat sewaktu pandemik tahun lepas sebab dia fragmented. Sebab bila kita shoot video atau filem, kita jumpa 2-3 orang dan kalau perasan dalam filem ni kita shoot dekat tepi pantai, tempat-tempat yang terbuka, open space yang waktu tu saya rasa selamat lah. Jadi bila dikumpul-kumpul dia jadi satu filem lah. Jadi filem ni kita cuba hantar festival dan ada ditayangkan lah di Singapore International Film Festival. Jadi tapi saya berbangga dan gembira dengan projek ni sebab dia maknanya saya pinjam idea dari teater tapi saya apply dalam medium filem. Maknanya bila kita sebut filem selalu kita membayangkan naratif feature lah. Jadi filem ni lebih kepada, ada audience yang anggap macam dance film, ada yang anggap movement based, ada anggap poetry. Jadi lebih abstract lah. Ya.
So this is the trailer for my film called Tiada Cinta Selama Muda, or in English, No Love for the Young. So in the whole 3 years that I have been doing theatre, I have always just been the writer and director. So this is the first time that I thought of doing a device piece, and what interests me about it is where the starting point can be from anywhere. So I took the whole idea of a device piece using my collaborator's body, so it was very physical, and try to put it into a film. And another reason why it also happened is because it feels safer to shoot this during the pandemic, because I only had to shoot 2 to 3 people for every shot and scenes. And I also did it in open spaces, so there was no danger of being socially distanced and all that. And I collected all of these little shots, and they are non-narrative into a big film, and it was shown in the International Film Festival in Singapore. So a lot of people who have seen it say that it felt like sort of a dance film because it was very abstract. And I thought it was interesting because in theater, it is a bit easier for me to do abstract things, but films are always with a narrative. So it was very interesting to put that sort of abstract thing into film and not remove the whole narration part of it.
Okay, thank you. So it feels as if this is something that you created partly because of the pandemic, that your imagination went to a slightly different kind of place because of the circumstances that you were in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I feel like macam usually we use macam long tracking shot. For example, like 1 kilometer ke half a kilometer. So in theater, usually you don't have that distance, but in film you can track the whole distance lah. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm very interested to see how people's practice and their art kind of changed as a result of the changing circumstances. So it's interesting to observe that as well. Okay, Saleh, can you share your work?
Yeah. Into the 2020 and this year, we did a very useful project. Overcoming Hardship in Crisis was the title of this project. We did during the pandemic with many communities like Afghan community, Somalia, Yemen, Pakistani, Rohingya, British International School, and with RAW in Singapore last week. The project is about fight with domestic violence during the pandemic, because the level of domestic violence has increased right now. The audience offered good solution when we did the performance with them. Paraso wants one of the next project to be a solution of domestic violence. The interesting thing about this show was that one of the actors cannot buy food from outside, missed the Malay food and said, roti canai, titarik pane, nasi goreng, nasi ayam, like that. And also he means for some places like Port Dickson and Penang and another where. So yeah, because during the MCO we had many domestic violence cases, especially in refugee community. That's why Parasto did this project. So it was really amazing, especially the solution when the refugee ladies gave the solution to us. It was really amazing and very powerful. Normally the refugee ladies, they are silent, they don't talk with another one. But when they give the solution, it was really, really amazing. So now we try to find some budget for new project and make a theater, new theater about solution of domestic violence. That's why with this way we try to support and help the different community.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Ridzwan.
Yeah, so this is the play that I mentioned. This is my second play. These are some notes which I put down, and I believe these were the first notes I put down for this project. So this is something that I was working on during the pandemic, but it predates the pandemic by quite a bit. So you can see here that these notes were put down in 2018. Now the play is set on Mount Kinabalu. I don't want to say too much yet because it's still a work in progress. But it's set on Mount Kinabalu. I would say the central theme is grief and loss. Another key aspect, I think, for me is the element of faith, religion, spirituality in connection with something like grief. So it's a little bit grief through the lens of faith, and faith also examined through something through grief. Yeah. Maybe just another thing which I would share about this play is that there is also I've taken I've included this aspect from Greek mythology, which is the Greek myth of Sisyphus, which is really about this person who is punished by being made to roll a boulder up a mountain. And just as he is reaching the top, the boulder slips from his grasp and then it rolls down again. And so then the next day he's doomed to repeat the whole thing. So it's really sort of an endless kind of experience. So I took that. So I think there's a small sketch that I did there, I think in the top right corner, which is sort of representative of that. And then so that's basically that's what the play is at the moment. I was, I think, in a very good position in that when the pandemic, when the first MCO was announced, I had already completed the first draft. Subsequently, I think I felt more comfortable taking some time getting used to the pandemic, to all the different changes and all that, without feeling like, okay, I still have this to do, I have this huge big task to complete, which is this first draft that was done. So since then, it's been working on that first draft, and I'm currently on my third draft.
Thank you, Ridzwan. Yes, I think for me, in reading the play, I think I was struck by how much it seemed to connect to how we were all feeling during this pandemic. I think your themes, even though you wrote this play earlier, the feeling of this endless pushing a boulder up a mountain, the endless MCOs, but also just the struggle, I think the everyday struggle, and dealing with a constant sense of loss and grief that's with us all right now really spoke to me. Thank you, Ridzwan. And finally, to share her work from last year is Masooma. So Masooma, tell us a bit about your work last year.
Yeah, sure. من تیم پرستو قبل از کووید تقریبا 4 ماه تمرین کردیم که در ماه آپریل 2020 روی صحنه بریم و سپس بهار می آید و نمایش بدیم که متاسفانه لاکداون شد و نتوانستیم اجرا کنیم. این نمایش صحنه‌های خیلی شگفت انگیزی دارن و من با گذشت یک سال بیشتر میشه هنوز هیجان زده هستم که این نمایش اجرا شود. و در این نمایش من نقش یک پرستار دارم. خیلی هیجانی هستم که این نمایش به زودترین فرصت بعد از لاکداون انشالله نمایش بدیم. Thank you.
Thank you, Saleh.
Okay. Masooma told she rehearsed it with Parastu for 4 months before pandemic to go on stage on April at 2020. this show is And Then Come Spring. This show, we had rehearsal with the cooperation of InstantCafeTheatre, but it was locked down and we could not do it. This show has amazing scenes, and more than a year later, I'm still excited to have this show performed. I play the role of nurse, and she told I still remember my dialogues. I'm very excited to go back on this stage and show, and then come spring for many audiences.
Thank you, Saleh. Okay, actually, we've just come to the end of our first part where you got to know the 6 participants a little bit. And we asked them next to show, send us some images about what's next in their work. And the first thing we asked them was, what has this pandemic taught you? So I just want to show each of their slides in turn. So let's have a look at, I won't get them to comment on them just yet, but let's have a look. I want to look at the images that the 6 participants sent when I asked them, what has this pandemic taught you? One by one, CK, hold on. Okay, so let's look at Ghafir's. So this is, let's go Ghafir's image. Thank you. So this is an image that Ghafir sent about what this pandemic has taught us. Next is Usen's, what has this pandemic taught us? And she sent an image of the digital parliament. Next is Ridhwan, what has this pandemic taught you? And an image of him skateboarding. And for Saleh, I'd like to ask him more about this image later because I don't completely understand it, so I want to know. Next. This is from Ridzwan, and finally from Masooma. Thank you. So let's get all the 6 panelists back together in one frame, and let's talk to them. And I want to ask you this question, and you can answer connecting it to the image that you sent us earlier, or you can just answer now, having listened to each other about what you all have been doing as artists, and maybe what you all are as artists. I'd like to ask you to reflect on what you think this pandemic has taught each of you. What you've learned, I think, this year. Who'd like to start? Usen.
Okay. 我想其实这个 Parliament Digital 我不太清楚，就是是不是很多人就是有在看，但是我想借着这一个 image 来讲一个整个就是疫情带给我的一个可能我最近一直在想的东西哈。我觉得去年开始其实疫情让我们不得不去体验跟开拓线上活动的各种方法马来西亚推出了云剧场。那我们DDV 就是我们新纪元戏剧影像系的学生还有老师也在想尽办法开拓各种可能性因为我们没有办法回到学校上课，但是这个科系的学生没有办法回到学校上课等于其实失去了很多就是现场学习的可能性那他这个东西给我最大的启发是我的学生这些被称为Digital Native 的一个年轻世代我看到了他们这个如何掌握就是这个科技快速掌握科技的这个能力其实它是远远超乎我的想象的那因为我见证就是我系上的一个排演课就是 Emilia 老师跟Jesslyn 老师带的我看到就是这些没有进剧场的学生1年级生他们没有进过剧场他们怎样使用就是这个 OBS Open Broadcast Software 用 live 的方式不是预录的方式去呈现他们的表演那么几十个学生透过自己的电脑或手机在各自的家演出那荧幕上其实我们看到的是快速切换画面的转场那我自己是非常 impressed 的那在一群那回到就是这个 Parliament Digital 的这个就是这张图我们看到的是一群老人家他讲他开不到国会的时候就是有一群年轻人立刻用这个 Parliament Digital 的方式回应这些政客打破所谓的不可能那这些东西其实都让我再去思考我们这群失去实体空间他们可能在人际关系的互动学习上可能有很多进步空间的年轻世代 他们快速反应，透过网络掌握技能的这一个能力，跟我们这个时代是非常不一样的。所以对我来说，其实可能未来的日子，我们怎么样就是主动学习，或者是我们怎么样有效去建立就是这个网上的知识库。那更重要的是，可能我们要怎样就是就是一个 educator， 我们要怎样认知到可能教跟学之间的界限是模糊的有时候其实可能我们才是需要学习的这一个部分好像都只会变得越来越重要。那当学习的模式在改变的时候，对我来讲，我最大的学习是我认知到我教学的方向也一定要改变。那我想那群不肯开国会的老人家，他们是不肯改变的我就已经对他们失去任何希望了。所以这段时间我想最多的是如果这些老人家已经就是对他没有任何期待，那我们这些所谓的大人不知道准备好了吗
？Since last year, we all had to experience and explore possibilities online. Cloud theatre was a very early attempt in the performing arts, and at New Era University, the lecturers and students of the theatre and visual department were trying their best to come up with creative solutions. I was actually amazed by my students, the younger generation, or better known as the digital natives, on how they master technology. That's far beyond what I can imagine. I witnessed in my rehearsal classes how this group of first-year students use the OBS, the Open Broadcast Software, through live method and not pre-recorded method. They present their performance online. They all stay at home respectively and run the performance, and then we could actually enjoy the screen transitions seamlessly. Honestly, I'm highly impressed. And on the other hand, when a group of senior citizens could not manage to maintain normal operation of our parliament, a group of youngsters replied with the digital parliament to offer option to the so-called impossible. And this situation actually provoked my thoughts on how this group of youngsters might not have the conventional experience of human-to-human relationship in the real physical life, but they are well equipped with another skill set or needed by the era. I think in the near future, active learning on how to connect virtually, understanding boundaries between teaching and learning, and to adapt into co-learning is all becoming more and more important. The mode of learning is changing. If we do not change, as similar to the example of the group of senior politicians who refuse to reopen parliament, then we might not be ready for the current new era, and it will be hopeless for the people.
Thank you, Usen. Yes, I mean, and with news that, of course, the current MCO probably won't be lifted. This is really very wonderful to hear this reflection from you. Anybody else want to add any other reflections that they have had this year, or pick up anything that Usen has said? It would be nice to have some sort of discussion of your own images or images other people presented, or if you want to share your own reflection of what this year has been like in terms of what do you think it's taught you?
I'll just jump in real quick. I think this idea of like the industry moving into the digital format, right? I think for actors and theater directors and writers, I mean, what does it mean to then have a facility on top of what we're used to using? You know, like instead of going to the studio and going to the theater, does this digital format provide a long-term solution, or is it just like a stopgap? Is it just now, just while this lockdown is happening, are we going to use it? And then once everything opens again, are we going to just abandon it again? I mean, that's been sort of the question that I think a lot of people have been asking. And I think for me, I mean, there's a period of inactivity during the early pandemic, right? During that first MCO, especially, because at that point, I think I felt, oh, it's just going to be for 2 weeks. Okay, 4 weeks. Okay, 6 weeks. Okay, 8 weeks. So I found myself sort of like leaning back and just waiting. And I think the longer I waited, the more sort of like deeper into the rabbit hole I fell. because it was a complete shift for everybody, right? From being able to travel between KL and Singapore, from doing one project to another, suddenly everything's at a grinding halt. So it's very scary especially for people like me who are freelancers, where suddenly the rug is pulled under you. You have your jobs are all canceled. You don't know when it's coming back. So I learned, the big lesson for me was to wait, to activate in any capacity, in reading, picking up a book, in reaching out a friend, because I think then I felt that I was being creative. I was accessing that part of me that I felt defined me a lot more. So I felt this idea it's okay to take your time, but also push yourself to, do new things or do something.
Okay, thank you. Any other reflections from anyone?
Yeah, I'd like to just add when I was thinking about this question that you posed to us, Jo, about the lessons, I was a bit worried actually, and quite in the sense that there were no clear answers that immediately came to me. So I've come to the conclusion that maybe the lessons have not emerged yet for myself. But following from that, I've sort of thought about it a little bit more, and I think part of that maybe it's because I personally have been in a pretty lucky position, I think, both in terms of the nature of my involvement as a writer, playwright who doesn't have production currently, in the process. So it's that itself means that a lot of the logistical issues, cancellations of shows and all that, did not affect me. Similarly, in terms of the people I know, my family, friends, nobody was physically seriously affected by COVID. Also, I think in terms of character, as an introvert, that it was not a big shift for me in that sense. So I think maybe that's why it feels as if there have been no real wake-up call kind of lessons that I can think of at the moment. Just to quickly add on the image which I sent, which was actually a painting by Ibrahim Hussein, which is of a mountain. But I think if you look at it, there's a lot happening there. There's a lot of lines, a lot of movement, a lot of shapes and colors and all that. So I think if at all, it is this idea that if I take a step back a little bit, far enough, then some sense sort of emerges from that. Then you kind of see this picture of that sort of keeps you on track. In my case, this is Mountain, which is this thing which I'm working on, this play which I've been writing. So maybe that's one lesson, which is that, in the midst of all of this, to just sort of take a step back and hopefully that compass, I think, the thing that you have your eye on in the long term emerges.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else with a reflection?
Okay. Yeah. So what I learned from pandemic, actually, the pandemic has taught me that life is not over. Humans have the power to fight with challenges. We can smile in difficult situation. In this photo, you can see that these two girls do not have warm clothes in cold weather. They do not have equipment and a house, but they still smile. It's very beautiful for me to be strong in bad condition. Sometimes we can learn from children as well. That's why I love this picture, this photo. That's why we don't stop the parastore activity during the MCO. We support many family, and some family, they really didn't have food. And also about domestic violence, we create a new show. And in hard condition, we was with many community that they need support. So yeah, this is the meaning of that photo for me is sometimes I have in my mobile that photo. Sometimes I see that and give me like happiness and energy. Yeah, that's why I love that photo.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any reflections? If you don't, we can move on. I just want to ask. If otherwise, I might just go on to the next question, and you can always come back later with a reflection that you might have. But the next question I asked everybody was I asked them to send me images of things that trouble them. So these were the images that everybody sent to me, and maybe we can look at them now one by one. So this is the image from Ghafir, what troubles him. I think this is an image that many of us saw recently. Thank you. Next. This is the image that Usen sent us, the impact of COVID on mental health. Maybe it's something that we can discuss as well. Ridhwan sent this very intriguing image, which I'd like him to talk about later. This is from Saleh, and maybe Saleh can explain what this image is. This is from Ridzwan, and finally from Masooma. Right. Okay, so let's get the group together again, and maybe I might start by asking Saleh, the image that you sent, what troubles you?
Yeah, actually, in this photo, one of them, the left side is the right side is the president of Afghanistan, and the other side is the political leader of Taliban. These two faces always troubles me, because the Taliban has been killing people for more than 20 years in Afghanistan. It doesn't matter who should be killed and why, just kill. While they are fighting in the name of Islam, but they kill Muslims. So that's really sad issue in Afghanistan by Taliban. The president of Afghanistan is a liar, that he biggest liar that I know. He said during the election campaign that no Afghan is inferior or superior to each other, but he is acting against the slogan he said. And also he created big space between many ethnic groups in Afghanistan. He just support his ethnic and his people, and other side he forget another people. Now the condition in Afghanistan really worse. I'm in Malaysia, but still I'm thinking about Afghan people, because they're my people. And he spent 80% of national money just for his people. He made, for example, something, and the Taliban come and broke in again. So this is like film, like theater and play. During his government, the Taliban become stronger. This is another bad things. The war has become more in many provinces now. Now, I think it's more than 60 provinces fighting is continue. His work and his working are very different. He knows the Hazara people are being genocide, but he don't say anything about this genocide. So yeah, I really don't like.
Just for some context, I mean, Saleh and Masooma are both from the Hazara ethnic community, and at the moment there is a very serious genocide going on in Afghanistan against this community, which again, there seems to be a lot happening in the world right now, many acts of genocide all over the world. And I wonder whether, while this pandemic is going on, and yet it's very hard to sometimes even know the extent of what's going on and how we can possibly, what we can possibly do. Maybe Masooma, I'll ask you to also share your image, why you shared that image. Again, because obviously, even though you're living in Malaysia, things back in Afghanistan are troubling you. So maybe you can tell us a bit about this image that you shared.
Yeah, sure. ازدواج زیر سن و اجباری یک چالش بزرگ در افغانستان است برای دخترانی از سن 9 سالگی تا 18 سالگی که همهشان اکثرش قربانی پدیده زشت میشه، که این عکس ها واقعا مرا آزار میده. من واقعا اذیت میشم وقتی این عکس ها را در صفحات مجازی در هر جایی که میبینم واقعا اذیت میشم. فقط میتونم دعا کنم برای تمام دختران سرزمین همین. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, Masooma, this is a real photo from Afghanistan. That man, old man, married with that young girl, but still the girl smiled, but we don't know why. But this is a big challenge, the child marriage challenge in Afghanistan. It's many years. The government, the Human Rights Commission, no one control this bad things in Afghanistan. Many girls, they are 19 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, they married with old men. So this is many girls, they are victim with these bad things in Afghanistan. Masooma told, when I see this picture, I really sad, I really upset, and I always pray for all girls in my country. They don't have this bad experience in their life.
Okay, I might just move on, unless anybody wants to share something here about the image that they shared. Let's move on to the next question, which is about what you were working on. So I asked everybody to share an image about what's next. So let's have a look at these images. During the pandemic, we saw that everybody was working creatively in some way. And some work came out of this pandemic. So these are some of the projects that people were working on last year, or that they want to work on next. So from Ghafir, the project he's working on next is How to Be Alone. So let's have a look at each of these. Let's have a look at each. Okay, thank you. So let's go back to the main room. So I think most of you have already talked a little bit about these projects. So maybe you take a bit of time for you to tell us a little bit more that you want to share with us about these projects that you are, that's your next project that you're working on now and then you will continue to work on. Ghafir.
Sure, thank you, Jo. Yeah, I think, so the production, it's a new play that we're trying to devise and write. It's called How to Be Alone. So it is also a process of collaboration between myself and a US-based director, along with 2 other actors, one in Malaysia, Jo, and also one in the US. So I think one of the things is that the pandemic has allowed us to collaborate and sort of taking that opportunity to do that. And How to Be Alone essentially tries to uncover the topic of isolation, of solitude, of loneliness, maybe from my perspective, in direct response to the pandemic. But I think the play doesn't necessarily look at the pandemic specifically, so it's not like a COVID play, but it's a study of, what does it mean to be alone? Do you feel lonely when you are alone? Did we does being alone is a choice, and when is it not a choice? Also looking at people who are in exile, people who choose to be alone, and people who make the choices to remove themselves from society in order to find sort of like a better or improved life from it. So the idea of the project is to turn it into a hybrid production where we have a live actor performing in front of an audience, and then the secondary actor performing or streamed into the theater. So the production is slated to go through a first workshop production presentation in September 2021. But of course, looking at how things are going in Malaysia right now, everything is, has an asterisk to it. So it might mean that we have to evolve, we have to change the format again. But I feel like this is what it means to create work these days, is that you're constantly having to kind of be on your toes and be ready to change. It's very scary. It's very frustrating, especially because it feels very unsupported. You're kind of like, aiming in the dark and hoping that something will stick. But one of the luxuries I feel that I want to afford for this production is to not rush it. That I want to allow this time to be able to process and write and devise and take the time it is needed to write the play. Because I think sometimes, outside the pandemic, it's always like, okay, we have a show in September. Okay, so start rehearsal in July, and then 4 weeks, production, 3 weeks, and then done. I want to be able to kind of like allow us the space to be an artist and to enjoy the process more. That's essentially what How to Be Alone is.
Thank you. Anybody else want to share a little bit about their project?
Yeah.
And again, thinking about how maybe it has changed as a result of this changing environment.
I want to explain about my photo.
Okay.
Yeah. This is what is the next. This is I'm behind this door. I feel, actually, this is my feeling. I'm behind this door in this condition. I'm not sure if this door will open, will open or not. And if the door opens, what will the other side? Is the other side dark or light? I feel my distance from the next one is a door, but I'm not sure about that side. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I don't know exactly, but still we try. Next project is the main project for Parasol is Andemkam Spring. We must do that maybe after lockdown, but we need a lot of work because we need to change the lesson and we need to start the rehearsal from zero. And also we have another project with Islam Axis that's about refugee right to work. And also we have another project with April that's also about the refugee story in second country and their own country. We have we designed the new show about solution of domestic violence because many community need to fight with domestic violence. And also we try to do theater of the oppressed workshop with local and refugee community. That workshops will be about fighting with xenophobia. So that's all we try to do as soon after lockdown.
Okay, Ridhwan, can I ask you to talk a little bit about your...
Okay, boleh respon sikit dengan dua picture tadi, yang luka tu dengan yang tulisan longhand tu. Jadi maybe relation antara skateboarding dan juga bila saya tulis, sebenarnya isi tulisan skateboarding aku ingat balik. Susun balik lah. So saya macam dah lupakan benda tu. Jadi saya cuba cari balik. Tapi kenapa longhand dan skateboarding? Sebab saya juga dalam masa sama saya cuba kurangkan screen time. Maksudnya sebab tahun lepas saya terlalu banyak tengok screen, jadi kadang-kadang pening, sakit mata. Jadi sebab tu saya cuba cari situasi lain. Dan yang luka ni saya boleh share sikit sebab saya baru terfikir yang skateboarding ni sebenarnya macam menari sikit. Dia macam dancing. In a sense, saya nak cari balik balance saya dalam 3 bulan ni memang akan cedera lah. Memang jatuh-jatuh sikit, tapi kemudian dah okey lah. Dan ia mengingatkan saya betapa dia in contrast kepada sewaktu saya buat teater dulu, di mana kalau dengan teater kan ia lebih macam kadang-kadang kita ada sentuhan, ada manusia, ada pelukan. Tapi skateboarding dia lebih solitary. Lepas tu berhubungan saya dengan konkrit, dengan jalan raya, jatuh. Maknanya bila saya jatuh tu, saya tak nak jatuh, tapi connection saya dengan benda-benda keras. Tapi itu sebagai daripada joy skateboarding lah. Maknanya bagi saya dia ada dua different joy, tapi dengan hubungan yang berbeza. Tapi saya tak sabar nak kembali bertemu dengan unsur-unsur kemanusiaan tu lah, berjumpa orang ya.
Thank you. Mia, could you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I would like to explain a little bit about the photo of the longhand writing and also the wound on the shoulder. So it was because during the quarantine, I was thinking about reducing my screen time. So I tried to use longhand when I am writing scripts and thinking about future projects. And also in relation to skateboarding, I feel like it was very related in the sense that skateboarding is a little bit like dancing. It was very physical for me. And this is very in contrast to theater where the physical relationship is between two actors where we hug, we touch each other. But when I am skating, I am thinking about it's a very solitary kind of physical connection, but I actually connect a lot with hard things like the floor. There were a lot of times where I had to fall down. And for me, that was two different things, and it's opened up a little bit of creativity.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go on to the next thing I asked everybody to share, which is about, unless anybody else wants to share anything before we move on. Anybody? Okay, let's move on to our next section, which is the last section of the day, which is about the future, and how each of you see the future for yourselves as artists. And I asked everybody to send some images for this as well. And first we asked about the biggest obstacles to creativity, personal obstacles. So let's have a look at each of these obstacles that people shared in turn. This is Ghafir's perfection. This is Usen's, the biggest obstacle to creativity. This is Ridhwan's, and you can see the skateboarding theme is there a lot. Next we have Saleh, and of course COVID as being an obstacle to creativity. Time from Ridzwan about being an obstacle to creativity. And Masooma, I'm not sure what your image represents, so maybe you can tell us what is your obstacle towards to creativity. Let's start with Masooma. Let's go back to the group. And Masooma, what do you see as being your obstacle towards creating things?
This is نداشتن اعتماد به نفس. گاهی احساس میکنم برای من کارهایی که خیلی دوست دارم انجام بدم کمی سخت است به خاطر که اعتماد به نفس ندارم. البته یک مسئله شخصی است که بیشتر وقتا خیلی من رنج میدن. شاید وقتی کودک بودم در دوران کودکی حمایت نشدم، به همین خاطر اثرات کودکی شاید هنوز در من وجود داشته باشه و اعتماد به نفس نمیتونم وقتی اعتماد به نفس ندارم نمیتونم یک چیز خلاقانه یک کار خلاقانه کنم. همین. تشکر.
Yeah. Okay. Masooma explained about that photo. She spoke about lack of self-confidence. She feels sometimes she don't have enough self-confidence, and she want to do something. She want to do like creative something, but she cannot because no enough self-confidence. Of course, She told, this is my personal issue that I suffer from most of the time. And also she mentioned it when she was child, maybe she didn't have enough support with parents, with the community and teachers. That is why she don't have enough self-confidence. So it still has its effect on her characters. But she loved to do some creative things, but she is not sure because no enough self-confidence.
Okay. Usen, can you tell us a bit about what you think is the biggest obstacle for you?
Okay, this one no need translation. There's only one word. I'm lazy.
Well, I want to ask then Ghafir to talk about what his observation was. I think it might be connected to what Masooma is talking about, even what I think Usen is talking about, which is the idea of perfection, right, Ghafir? So
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I mean, I totally echo Usen, lazy, yes, and this self-confidence. I think there's this impression that people might have on people in the creative industry is that we're always ready to go on stage, always ready to go out there, we're extroverts. But really, I think we struggle like most people. I think I chose this image from a book of the same title, Fake Perfection, which is, of course, a play on words. And I think it's the way that, and I speak for myself, and I'm sure many people can relate, this idea that this desire to do everything right, and not just do it right, but do it perfectly, flawlessly. When in fact, in reality, it's impossible. It's impossible to achieve perfection. But and the fact that we keep setting up this, or I keep setting up, I keep setting up this unattainable goals. And then when I don't achieve them, then I get depressed. Then I'd be like, well, why do I even bother? I'm the worst. I hate this. I don't know why people would hire me to do this. And the writer of this book, James Victor, who's a designer as an artist himself, and he says, so his advice is that you have to do it. You just have to start somewhere, and you have to stop yourself from saying, "Oh, I won't do it because I'll start working on the project, or I'll finish it when it's perfect." That's our defense, right? Well, I'll get to it when I'm ready. I'll get to it when I have all the resources. But then I think, and he says that then you'll never move. And then you'll never start anything, and not just in terms of the projects that you work on, but also your relationships. And I think that's the thing I'm struggling with, because I can see the product, I can see what I want, I can see this desire, this staging, or this actor, or this design, but sometimes I resist process. I don't allow myself to start with one. I always want to be like, jump from 10 first lah. I'm sure it'll pick up. But then, the problem is that when I fail, I'd be like, then I'll get depressed. Then I'll be like, abandon the project. That's me.
So what can we do what's the advice of this writer in Fake Perfection?
I think he suggests to just jump into it. I think he talks about how you cannot think about the idea of perfect as the vision. The idea of process should be your jumping off point. You cannot think that, you have an image of what it's going to be, and you know that it's going to be, you're going to have to take the stairs. You can't take the elevator up. And sorry.
Go ahead,
and that should be the habit you practice, not the other way around. That's all.
Take the stairs.
Take the stairs, always.
Okay. Ridhwan, do you want to add anything to this?
Yes. When bila ada perkataan obstacle, kalau dalam skateboarding, obstacle tu usually the source of creativity lah, because usually in street skating, when you want to do some tricks, the obstacle is the source of what you are going to do lah. In this case, I did a trick called wall ride. Basically, you just ride the wall, and actually I cannot do it, but I saw the traces there. Ada macam traces, ada pernah skateboarder lain pernah buat. Jadi I'm interested to try it, so I try it lah. But the macam mana kata, skateboarding ni dia menarik because walaupun the effect is on your physical self, okay, cedera sikit, tapi dia sangat imaginative, because when you want to do a wall, right, basically you need to imagine there's a imaginary ramp and then you just do it. So what I try to do is try to do it macam Ghafir tadi lah, macam kita cuba je dulu. Theoretically kita macam boleh bayang-bayangkan, tapi sebenarnya kena feel dulu. Jadi in skateboarding kena test the obstacle, kena touch ataupun obstacle tu mengganggu kita dan kita jadi kreatif.
Did you say attack the obstacle?
Attack. Maknanya susah nak cakap. Just feel the obstacle and then maybe you become creative with it or something.
Sorry, Mia, can you translate for everyone?
Oh, okay. So basically, when Ghafir was talking about obstacle, I feel like it's very related to skateboarding itself, because there are obstacles in skateboarding, and when I meet these obstacles, it's actually a form of creativity, because I have to first go through the obstacle, then only I can actually do it, and I have to imagine it's sort of an activity where you have to feel and imagine that you are going through the obstacle, then only you can try and do it, and then only you will succeed. So it's not something that you can just do and just succeed. So likewise with theatre as well, with performing, you have to first feel and imagine and try it, then only the thing will become. So I feel like skateboarding is a very imaginative activity on its own, because I always have to first look at the ramp, imagine the obstacle, and the obstacle actually serve as a source of creativity.
I can imagine, Ridhwan, that you're going to write a book one day about art and skateboarding. Yeah, the philosophy of art through skateboarding. I look forward to that.
Sorry, just add one quick thing, Jo. Sorry. I think to not be confused about the dream of perfection, right? I think we still need to pursue excellence. We need to pursue the details and the work, but it's also about finishing it. I think the one thing that's better than being perfect is being done, is finishing it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to very quickly show images that you all sent to us about roadblocks. And roadblocks being different from obstacles, right? Obstacles are maybe our own personal obstacles, but what are the greatest roadblocks to making art in Malaysia? Again, I'm not going to spend much time on this. I just want to show everybody the images that you sent before we get on to our last question of the day. So let's just have a look at these images. Ghafir's rather intriguing image of his roadblock, and Usen's image of the roadblock is something I think anybody who's in education will really understand. This is the biggest roadblock to education. This is Ridhwan's roadblock. This is Saleh's. This is Ridzwan's. And this is Masooma's. So just just one question just for Ghafir, actually. What was your image?
It's a mathematical image. It's a Fibonacci sequence. So essentially it looks at a spiral, right? That everything, it's a pattern of numbers that grows when you add the previous number into the current one, and then you repeat the pattern. I don't know if you can see, like, there's a small square in the middle. Mm-hmm. So if that's 1, you add 1 and 1 is 2, and then 2 and 3 is 5. So it keeps growing and out into the spiral. So this Fibonacci sequence exists not just in maths, but also in nature. And it's a very organic sequence. And I feel that, with my work in Malaysia and just my experience, that it never really follows the sequence. It's never organic. So it starts, we get 1, but then it's rare that 1 and 1 equals to 2. It's rare that what we've done in the past supports the work in the future. So that way, I feel the scene or the industry never quite grows at a level or at the rate that it can grow. We keep either going back to 1 or going back to like 2 numbers before, and for many reasons: support, investment, training. Just even for myself, like looking into what the future is and planning for the future. So yeah, Fibonacci sequence.
And the other person I want to ask about roadblocks is Saleh. What do you think are the roadblocks for you?
Yeah, the roadblock means for me is the border between humans. I'm a refugee, and I feel there is a border between I and you guys. This border is similar like this photo, which is not easy to cross. Other side, this border hinders my creativity in Malaysia. Sometimes I'm thinking, oh, okay, this project is amazing and I must do this, but something is limitation for refugee, no right to work, and we scared, we lost our energy. We cannot do because no right, and yeah, difficult condition. That's why this foot is like the symbol of border between people in one society, in one community. I feel other side. I feel I'm a part of Malaysian society now because I stay here. I'm bad. When I talk about the right, is really feel bad because we see the impact of border between refugee and non-refugee. So yeah, this is a big challenge for me in Malaysia.
Well, I hope that, one of the things that we want, in the arts and theatre, we try to remove these roadblocks which exist. Of course, I'm not saying that those roadblocks don't exist. They do exist. But I think one of the things that we're trying to do constantly is to become aware of where the roadblocks exist and to try to dismantle them in some way, if we can, at least.
Yeah, I agree, Jo. I'm sure the art is very, very powerful. We can cross and we can remove this border between all of us. So just art can.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's not easy though. It's not easy. It takes time. And thank you for sharing that you still do feel that border, that you do feel that you are on one side of this fence and we are on the other side. I think it's important to acknowledge that, that there is a fence for certain. There is a fence. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to go straight to our last question because we haven't got much time left. And the last question and the image I asked everybody to send was, I said, dream big. Who's the future you? What's your future life? Who are you as a future creative being? And I just want to share the images that everybody sent. This was Ghafir's future image. And I really love this image of big theatre. Right, to dream big and to say we can do things. Don't rush ahead, CK. Really can dream big for what the future can possibly be. Right. The second one was Usen, but I'm going to ask Usen to explain her image to me. So we'll stop at Usen's and ask her to explain what is this image of the future for you.
Okay. 这是一个导演啊，我蛮喜欢的导演哈，他是 Kiloski 哈，他的作品叫 Camera Buff 的一个剧照。那我大概讲一下这个故事哈，他讲这的是这个主角他有了摄影机以后，他在追求他自己的电影艺术的创作的过程里面，他如何迷失，然后最后找到自我的一个过程啊哈。那这张剧照是在讲的是片尾的时候，他其实是拿起这个摄影机对着自己，他回归他自己真正想要拍片的这一个初衷。他想起他当时买这个 camera 是因为他的孩子要出生了，他想要记录这些事情。他刚刚当一个父亲，他想记录他刚刚当一个父亲时的紧张。因为其实这题对我来说特别难。为什么？因为我一向对自己的人生是没有什么计划的。因为我从小觉得自己很快就会死掉，然后就是觉得命运其实如果带给我什么，我就变化，我就顺应对就好。所以如果说我未来就是我终于肯创作了终于不懒惰了那我希望我可以像这个剧照一样，就是我可以一直不断的问，其实我为什么要做这个作品还有一个是我想讲的，因为可能大多数时候我就不是一个创作者，我是一个观众，所以我自己也是希望说，在我有生之年，我还可以见证的这个未来就是可能不是3到5年，可能是3到50年，我在这个土地上面，我也有机会看到这样子的一个作品， 也就是说跟这张剧照一样，就是我们是有足够的这一个坦诚对自我的关照哦，然后这个坦诚的自我的关照，可能其实它当然需要很多。它需要很多的方法达到这样子哈，但是我觉得最重要的是这个部分。
Yeah. This is a photo of the film by the Polish film director Krzysztof Kieslowski, camera buff. And this work actually described how the main actor had a camera and trying to explore the art of filmmaking. And in the process, he once lost and finally found himself. So at the end of this film, he actually took the camera and focused on himself. And he found the original passion and intention of him making a film. Also, how it triggers the excitement of when he first bought this camera is because due to where he first became a father and he wanted to record this. So this question is particularly challenging for me because I'm not a person who planned my own future. In a very young age, I somehow has a feeling that I might passed in very young. So there's no need to actually plan. And this is also the reason that I face my life in a rather relaxed manner and following what fate brought me. And so if in a near future that I had an opportunity to create a work, and if I am successful in battling my laziness eventually, I would ask myself of my intention of becoming an artist in the very beginning. And much of the time, I'm an audience in the Malaysian theatre and performing arts. I do hope to see more works of such thoughts being put up in Malaysia in the near future, and how the works could explore the height of a narrative, but not deliberately flattering, with a rational criticism, not to prove personal existence. To stand very firmly on your foot and offer subjective views. Finally, similar to this photo, I wish for confidence, introspective and honest observation.
Thank you. Let's have a look at the next image, I think from Ridhwan. This was Ridhwan's future image. And next was Saleh's future image, Ridzwan's future image, and Masooma's future image. So I think I want to end by asking Saleh, can you explain to me about your image for the future?
Yeah, thank you, Jo. That image is from Bamiyan province in Afghanistan. The people, women and men, all people come and join to music festival, actually, that photo. But I like similar festival, Parasto International Festival in Bamiyan province, Afghanistan. The front of the Buddha that have been destroyed by Taliban in 2001. Parasto International Theatre Festival in Afghanistan, I would like to see the InstantCafeTheatre and Malaysian friends in Bamiyan as well.
That's a good dream. That's a good big dream. I'm not going to show all the other images, but if anybody wants to talk about their image, any last sharing, because we're going to end quite soon. But if anybody wants to share anything from the last images, can we just show the last, the next slide, CK, of everybody's work? Yeah. So when we talk today about what's next, this was your immediate next project that you shared with us today, the projects that you're working on right now and that you hope will be next. And then later we talked about, well, what's next? What's later? What is your dream project? What's the project you're dreaming about? Whether it's dreaming about, maybe as Usen said, when she will turn the camera on herself and see what she is as an artist, when Ghafir will have that big theatre that he dreams about and create the kind of work, when Saleh will have a Malaysian Afghan festival in front of the broken statues in Afghanistan at Bamiyan, what are the dreams that we have as artists that people think are not possible, but we should dream them together. So let's just all get back together. Thank you, CK. And if Ridhwan, and Masooma, if you want to add anything before we close about what you might dream of for the future of your work, maybe you can just share some closing thoughts.
Yeah, maybe I'll just share something quickly. It's raining quite heavily here, so I think it's quite noisy. The last image which I shared, I think, was just a simple image of which represented my dream of just having time to write and to produce work. But I think more than that, what I like about that particular image, this is just something which I happened to come across on the net, but what I liked about it was the simplicity. And I think at the end of the day, that is the dream, to achieve simplicity, whether it's in the writing or in the living. It's that. I don't understand why every time I show people my Excel sheets, they don't get that the end goal is simplicity, but it really is. I also don't get why, with all my Excel sheets, I'm still short of time, but there you have it. So these are things which I'm still figuring out. Yeah.
Ridhwan, anything you want to share?
Yeah, maybe tentang gambar tu, maybe sebab bila saya share gambar tu, bila saya di atas skateboard, saya rasa free, bebas dan rasa gembira, sedikit gembira untuk sementara lah, temporary. Jadi sebagai contoh, macam dalam PKP yang terbaru ni, sebenarnya tak boleh skate atau tak boleh riadah tak boleh banyak sangat. Jadi dalam kes ni saya masih skate, tapi untuk hantar buku-buku yang orang order lah, maknanya saya buat kerja sajalah, hantar ke pusat mail kat depan rumah. Tapi saya write jugalah, maknanya sebab saya tahu, macam mana kata, saya akan cari jalan untuk cuba free, menjadi bebas dan gembira lah. Bagi saya art ni memang point kita untuk cari kegembiraan atau kebebasan yang mungkin sementara, tapi kita kena terus mencuba dapatkan lah. Ya, tu saya cuba cari yang betul tu.
So sharing about the photos that I shared, it was because I wanted to feel free, and I wanted to feel all this freedom, and that's why I started skateboarding. And for example, in this very recent PKP, you're not supposed to be able to skate because it's sort of an exercise activity. But in this situation, I feel like I am allowed to do it because I actually use it for work, where I skate to the mail box that is outside of my condominium, and I send the books that people have ordered. So I just took the opportunity to skate there instead of walk there and just send it there. And I feel like this is sort of an escapism for me to run away from feeling trapped. And I feel like skateboarding has given me a way to find freedom. And I feel like that is also the whole point of art, and doing art is to feel free. And even if it is a temporary feeling, I feel that it is important and it makes me happy.
Okay. And finally, Masooma, do you want to share a final thought?
Yes, sure. My biggest dream is to help the oppressed children, especially the children that have lost their parents in war. I want to provide a safe and fun place for them to study. This is my biggest dream.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Ghafir, Ridhwan, Usen, Saleh, and Masooma. We've unfortunately come to the end of our 2 hours. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with each other, with me, and with our audience who are listening. Thank you very much to our audience for coming in and spending this 2 hours with us. I know there was a lot to think about. I hope that you've all gone away or can go away with some new ideas and with some reflections of your own as well. I want to ask CK just to come back and just to wrap up for us and give our thanks to all the many people, especially our translators who've been working really hard, translating non-stop for the last 2 hours. So if they can come back and join us, and we can all give them a round of applause as well, and thank them for what they've done. And to CK as well, a big thanks for this massive production. I know he's been working very hard to put all this together. So thank you very much, CK, as well.
Thank you.
撮合在一起，谢谢 CK。
Okay, actually close the room for the interpretation. So I welcome all the interpreter to come back to the room so that we can say something. I take a little bit time. Yes, Amin, come back. Also our translator, Ijan, and also Mia.
It says the host has stopped sharing the video. So yeah, I can't start my video.
Don't worry.
Yeah, so sorry, CK, you can't see the gorgeous that is me. So sorry.
You want to take a photograph?
Yeah, who is this?
Yeah, Adriana, tak boleh. It keeps saying you cannot.
Biar aku.
Can you share a different link with Adriana?
Make one see.
Now, see you.
Oh yeah. Yes. This is me.
Hold on, let me give instruction to Ziying to stop the thing already.
Sorry, I can't. Okay.
Everyone is here.
Farah's not here.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is really a production. This year, I think InstantCafeTheatre might not be doing a big production, but this is something we start with. Thank you so much to everyone, to the panelists, to Jo, to also the translator, and also the very, very hardworking interpreter who have been talking to an audience they do not know whether it's there or not for a full 2 hours without stop. Thank you so much to them. Thank you so much. And I think, thank you everyone, to the audience. We definitely going to see you again in some way or form in the near future. So
I really say thank you to the translators also, that we don't know exactly how many people were listening in, but I think that just trying to start by having as much translation work being done as we can, I think is quite important, kind of moving forward. So this was, I know, was a big learning curve, especially for the team, backstage team. CK leading this backstage team, I know, it was a huge learning curve, but I think it's something that we want to try to do and try to make accessible to more people as time goes on. And so don't forget to take our photograph for everybody. With the cats, I want to say a shout out to all the cats who appeared. Cat and
kucing kamu tu boleh masuk kamera juga.
I don't know where she's gone to, so let's take a photo with Bali Liang.
Zing also have a cat. Everybody has cats, and then Mia also have so many cats. Okay, so let's take a picture. Oh, before that, we wait for Usen. She's chasing the cat.
Cat doesn't want to be photographed.
Oh, two.
She got two.
Wow.
Okay, I think they will be struggle.
Okay.
Have to.
Everybody ready? Hold on. There's somebody sending chat. Okay. One, two, three. Another one. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So thank you very much. See you again.
Thanks very much, everybody. Thanks for all your hard work and all your input. Thank you for everybody for sending all your images and thinking so much about everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jo. Thanks, CK. Thanks, Farah.